History. Lesson 15, Social History, presented by Junichi Sugari. Contents: Social History. First, the role of women in Philippine Revolution. Second, women role in Philippine history. Third, women contribution to the Philippine Revolution. Fourth, early colonial period to 19th century. Lesson Introduction. Philippine history has been framed less and foremost within political development from the pre-16 barangay, the Spanish Pueblos, the U.S. colony Japan puppet republic under administration. Social history is essentially an expansion of historian concerned beyond the activities of social and political elites. In 1920s, the analyst school pioneered the attention of to greater than social economic developments and look at this in the long term, which span countries. The role of women in Philippine Revolution. The multifaceted role of women in the Philippine Revolution, moving beyond their traditional domestic sphere, women's resistance and involvement, political defiance. In 1888, 20 women from Los Bulacan petitioned to learn Spanish and act of defiance against colonial norm. It was recognized by Rizal, who praised their desire to higher aspiration. Katipunan leadership. Women were integral to the Katipunan, with figures like Josefa Rizal leading the women chapter of Maria Dizon, managing the organization record and initiation rates. Wartime contribution. Women like Melchora Aquino, Chandang Zora provided crucial support by offering food and medicine to revolutionary. Others, such as Teresa Magbanua, Trinidad Tixon, and Agenda Cabagan, talk about combat roles. Raising to the ranks of general and military leader. Women role in Philippine history. The active role of Philippine history. Women in history, moving beyond the idea that they were merely passive victims of oppression. It emphasizes that women out alongside men against injustice and contributed significantly to social movements. The key example of resistance during the Spanish colonialization. The Babaylan, the spiritual leaders, who were predominantly women, were highly respected and defined the new colonial order. The resistance was a rejection of the imposition of life by the colonizer. The Tamblan Uprising of 1622 is given as a specific example. Although Tamlot was a man, some historians argue that the revolt and Babaylan had a Babaylan-led nature, as it was driven by the promise of prosperity and freedom from Spanish and player control. Their spiritual and communal aspect resonated with the people and show the influence of the Babaylan tradition, which was often led by women. Women contribution in the Philippine Revolution. Listen no contribution of women in Philippine Revolution, particularly through literature and poetry. Women writer and poet published their nationalist pieces in revolutionary newspaper like El Heraldo de la Revolution under nationalist pseudonym. The page include a poem titled Americans, likely written by a woman. The poem calls upon peoples to take up arms and showcase their honor, emphasizing they need for contribute struggle until no one is left to be ruled over. It was warned that if Yankees invade, Filipinos will suffer and die. The poem end with a message of hope, the strength, stating that because their cause is just, and they have a grace of heaven on their side, there will be achieved success through struggle. Early colonial period to 19th century. 1622, the Tamlop uprising occurs in Bohol. While led by man, Tamlop, it is considered to have had a Babaylan lead nature. The Babaylan, who were often female spiritual leader, play a key role in resisting Spanish colonial and religious imposition. 18th century, Chinese mischievous begin again significant social and economic influence in the Philippines. By the 19th century, they had become a powerful group when controlling land and resources. Their growing influence caused social flexion and led to the Spaniard attempting to regulate them. 1888, 20 women from Morelos Bulacan petitioned the Governor General for permission to study Spanish, a radical act defiance against the colonial norm that restricted women to the domestic sphere. This event was praised by Jose Rizal and the propaganda movement. The Philippine Revolution and early 20th century. 1896. The Philippine Revolution Europe's women play an integral role, not just a supporter but also as combatant and leaders. The Katipunan establishes a woman chapter led by figures like Josefa Rizal and Marina Dizon. Wilchura Aquino, Tandang Zora provide critical aid to revolutionaries. Teresa Magbanua, Trinidad Dixon, and Agueda Kahabagan lead troops and gain reputation as women generals. Post-revolution, early U.S. colonial period. Women continue to play a part in nationalist cause through literary works such as From Americans, which advocate for independence. Chinese in the Philippines. There are more mention of Chinese in the Blair and Robertson collection than the Moros, which reflect how extensive the Chinese have been part of our country history. Such clarification are ordered by Chinese. We refer to to those who migrated to the Philippine island from the age of trade in the 9th century to the period of colonialization until the late 19th centuries. They, they may or may not have married into Filipino female, but in general, they identify themselves as a righteous place should be at home. Participating in politics would lead them in selling their bodies for voting and other political favor. That's all. Thank you.